About a month after the announcement about Huxley, Myka tried to do damage control by posting a lengthy statement on Instagram.
An update on our family, James and Myka Stauffer, episode 3, final part, and this will actually wrap up our coverage of this documentary. Keep in mind, that means this documentary particularly. However, I'm not as interested in glazing the Stauffers as HBO is, so we're also going to do a follow-up of everything that they left out to make these people seem more sympathetic than they are. Before we get to what the Instagram post actually said, which it was self-serving and ridiculous and way too late, right? But they had another family who had done the same thing on to defend the Stauffers.
People do think that everything's going to be rainbows and butterflies and their child's going to be perfect and all they need is love and a little bit of medical attention, and then that will erase all kinds of trauma. I did feel like someone needs to share from the other side because it's not always true. And it hasn't been my experience.
This family had a similar story. They actually adopted twice, and on the second one, they said that it did not work out. And it's another case of them, even the way they talk about this child that they've never met, that's a human being that has their own personality, they're already trying to shove these kids into a box. Even the way they talk about their first daughter, who is still with them, was, I need to have a masterclass on what a tantrum is. I don't know who needs to hear this, but a child who is overwhelmed, a child whose needs are not being met, a child who is trying to be shoved into a box, a child with crippling stomach pain is not having a tantrum. They are expressing themselves in the only way that they might be capable at that time.
Daughter, she was 4.5 years old. She weighed 15 pounds. She couldn't walk. She couldn't talk. She couldn't sit up on her own. She had a stomach issue that we didn't know about.
Oh, there's a tummy ache one.
Oh, yes, yeah. There did.
Anything with frowny faces means tummy ache.
Yeah, she always had a stomach ache. All of her early pictures, she draws the tummy ache and a frowny face usually. At the very beginning, she just screamed all day, every day. Just screamed. Eventually, the tantrums got less and less and less, but it was quite a long journey from there.
You know, people who call that a tantrum, so she was drawing you pictures to show you where it hurt. She was in an incredible amount of pain, but we're going to call that a tantrum. Now, when they decided to adopt the second time, she says that they knew by day 2 this wasn't going to work out, but she really tried, and she did openly admit that she became a danger to the child, and they decided that they just needed to not have this happening. What I want to ask, though, and the echoing question in the background of all of this, what would their responses have been if this was a biological child? I do think it's important to clarify, I don't put my kids' stories on the internet because if they want to tell their story someday, they can. That's not my job to blast them like that and make money, you know, all of that stuff. But I'm not talking about stuff I don't have experience with. So we'll put that there. Anyway, continuing.
The message is that it was too hard or it just wasn't the right fit for us. Like, it's like not a shoe. Okay, I'm sorry it didn't fit. And then you just can return it into the store and just not think about it anymore. So I think it kind of affirms that we weren't wanted to start with, and then we still aren't wanted even after someone tells us we were. I think that's what's hard.
So she was another one who was in this documentary who for most of it seemed to be fangirling and like really approving of what Myka and James did. However, when they get more towards the end of episode 3, she explained how watching this online made her feel as an adoptee. Then we get into the interviews that they did with family channels, which they've done throughout this documentary. However, these family channels, you hear my turkey, were clearly, and all of them are coming from a stance that I don't really understand because a lot of the things they're complaining about actually have a very simple solution.
Social media has created these beautiful moments in our life and has connected us to our followers, right? Our Earls fam. And it's been an amazing thing. It also has a terrible side to it, and that is the cyberbullying.
So let's ask ourselves a question. Is it that when it's people who have genuine concerns, and the worst part of it, we couldn't go with the creeps who download the videos, who we know are a problem within the family channels, and that's what they're doing, which is why you can't monetize certain types of content, because family channels kept posting that, knowing kind of what they were doing, I think. Or the fact that your kids pay your bills, that's not embarrassing. No, it's the fact that people call you out because your kids are being, okay. Now, don't get me wrong. I know that stuff happens. Lord knows I'm on TikTok. I get it. But a lot of the times when I see those criticisms, they're like, oh my God, these people are coming after us, or oh, the haters, or whatever. It's giving like Resilient Jenkins. The kids are literally sleeping on the floor in the living room. Or like Ash Trevino, daughter burns her arm and they're not even taking her to the doctor, even though she's crying in the background. Stuff like that. Like, I get that sometimes it does go too far, absolutely. But you don't understand why they're mad and why they're talking about it. You don't get it at all.
Something that's really scary that family channels have to deal with are people that will just literally do everything in their power to try to like hurt you.
Now here's the thing, and I think a lot of us, I was telling you I have a solution for this, which I do. So your job is actively putting your children in danger, and this one sucked what happened to this family. They did make a false report. Don't do that. Don't swap people. It's not cool. But if I had a job that I felt was putting my kids in a bad spot, I'm quitting. But the thing is, they know they can't make as much money as their kids do on YouTube and still live the same lifestyle. So that's part of it. Absolutely.
So do you regret amplifying the story at all?
Yeah, no, I don't really. I think that the responsibility lies on, the parents being human beings, honestly.
Now you see how hard HBO was going for the sympathy, but this was one of the first people to break this story, and I appreciated her answer. Do I feel bad? No, that's not really on me.
I think there are a lot of ethical issues with monetizing a child's entire childhood, especially if you don't protect their privacy and you're doing things like sharing their embarrassing moments, sharing their trauma, all of that kind of stuff. I think the shame is that instead of channeling this moral outrage and saying, you know what, maybe this is the time to seriously take a look at family YouTubers. People just yelled about the Stauffers on the internet and sent death threats, which, okay, but that didn't help any other children. Let's put some laws into place. How can we make this safe for kids?
Did they do no research? There are so many people actively campaigning for these laws, and they've actually been passed in a couple states, but it's big states, and we need it federally. These laws need to be federal, but Exhibit A. Exhibit B, ridiculous take, because a lot of people are actively campaigning for those laws. They need to be made federal. A few states have passed them, and some of the people that are actively campaigning for those laws are people like Sherry Frank, Ruby Frank, 8 Passengers, that whole horrible situation. She's actively campaigning, just wrote a book. There are tons of adult vlogger kids who are out there telling their experiences. A lot of them do not reflect a positive experience in that. All you had to do was look it up, but no, we need to twist the narrative. Clarification, they said in the documentary, well, what happens when these kids grow up? I wonder what their narratives will be, and those narratives are already out there. So it was kind of reductive to a lot of people who are telling their stories. Look on TikTok, Google is free, I don't know.
Her last Instagram post, like to this day, do you want me to read it? She goes, I want to first off apologize for the uproar and take full responsibility for all of the hurt that I have caused. I'm sorry for letting down so many women that looked up to me as a mother.
I wanted to help so bad, I was willing to bring home any child that needed me. For this, I was naive, foolish, and arrogant. I also want to mention that moms need a safe place to ask for help when they are struggling. No questions asked. Praying that Huxley only has the best future in the entire world.
That was the last time she posted on social media. Her YouTube accounts are gone, but her husband, who he didn't take near as much as she did, and that's ridiculous. They were a team on this, okay? But he's still posting on Stauffer's Garage on YouTube, just posted like 3 weeks ago, and obviously comment filters are on. When the other people who claimed to be friends were asked if they had reached out or anything like that, they didn't want to say too much because they didn't want to get canceled. Those are coworkers, not friends, girl.
Did you reach out to Myka, or had you been in touch? No, I never reached out to her, and I feel really bad. I feel like I probably should have, but I was scared.
But what were they scared of?
Did you follow what went down with the Stauffers?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe you can tell me a little about that story. And
just be careful.
Yeah.
Be very careful.
People are scared because if you are even associated with her in the slightest, then you will also get canceled.
Let me help you read between the lines on that one. They agree with what she did, but they wouldn't come out in public support because they didn't want to lose their income. We're going to wrap up on the note of what happened to the child. And last it was reported, he was sitting in the lap of a woman who seemed to really care about him, was singing to him, he was laughing, and he seemed happy. We don't know anything beyond that, and I actually kind of love that because this kid is finally getting the privacy he deserves and hopefully is with a family who loves him very, very much. I'll see you at the next one, and I hope you have a good day.